Welcome, everyone, to Ladies of the Kitchen 30-minute chat for September 2025. I'm Maria DeRosa, founder of Ladies of the Kitchen, and I can't even find the right excitement word to tell you because Michelle, who you see on the screen, and I'll give you her formal introduction in a second, and I go back I don't even know how far back. I'll let her tell you if she feels impelled to do so. But she is a doctor, which for some of you, that's an extremely important place to be in life or to know that you have an expert at your disposal here. So Dr. Michelle Masa-Dawson is the director of Recall Healing USA, and she's also the co-director of the Recall Healing International. Now, her leadership is so crucial because it wraps up the mind and the body medicinal purpose of being actually and what drives her. And it's helping individuals uncover emotional roots of physical illness, which there's a lot of that in this world today. Her certifications include, and these are just some of them, you guys, there's so many, but these are the ones that I feel a lot of you may relate to. Neuro Emotional Technique, NET, Neuro Linguistic Programming, NLP, sound healing. And I know that that's a big one that has exploded in the last couple of years. So touche for her on that one, because I personally love it. She has a private practice in Georgia. Along with that, she teaches. She has an extensive, huge family and travels, of course, to see them. And at the end of the day, her deepest commitment is doing what she's doing now, sharing and empowering others to seek access, wisdom, and embrace their inner soul and what's inside their intuition. Welcome, Dr. Michelle Dawson. Oh
Thank
my
you
God.
so much. And it's always almost a little like, oh gosh, that all of that trying to prove my existence for a really long time before I really could even embrace myself, but also the tools that I continue, like the reason for more certifications for me really is it helps me to be more disciplined. So if I
I
sign
like
up for
that.
something and it's important to me, then not just to sign up because that follow through, it's not always easy, but if I have deadlines and due dates and things like that, those old patterns of like, okay, I got to get it done. Virgo in me is very like, okay, I got to get it done. And so that kind of drives me to do it. But I want to be a lifelong learner and I want to continue. And so nothing is a panacea and everything kind of works together. And so as I continue adding tools, something might work for some people that doesn't work for others. But my basics in recall healing are pretty amazing. And that kind of applies to everything. And then you just add, okay, let's tweak it. Let's do this. Let's do that. And
Well, that is so cool because, you mentioned how you're a student of learning. So obviously your certifications are always going to be because you are a student of learning, right? So with that said, how did you arrive at recall healing? And for those that have no clue, why don't you explain not only how you arrived, but what it is exactly?
Sure. So recall healing really, when I was going to grad school, when I was looking for like the right program, and I found the Saybrook program of mind body medicine, I was like, oh my gosh, this is it. This is exactly because I was already doing and knowing about recall healing. And so I go in because my mind body medicine is what recall healing is. So I
Mhm.
go in and I met with fierce opposition. And my professors are like, what? There's no research behind it. And so my mentor, Gilbert, he's French Canadian and he's very French Canadian. And he's like, what? Did you not show them the pictures? Did you not tell them that it is like this? And show them. And so I said, well, enough anecdotal evidence really is evidence. And so I took it upon myself to really start to gather and to write about it because I saw profound healing that was happening. And so I one of the webinars that I'll give from time to time is how our story matters. And that's really like everything that we have experienced in our life, it does matter. And so many of us are taught to zip it, don't talk about what has been painful, brush it under the carpet, stay strong, keep a stiff upper lip, keep going. And we never really process it. We move on, but we never process it. And in that processing is really what allows for our body to remain healthy and whole and to move beyond it. But when we brush it under the carpet to keep going, it doesn't work. And ultimately, that toxic load will create something to, we say to help. It's not a malfunction, it's more like a turbo function. And so I saw my mom from early on. My mom was in 13 different foster homes before she was 2, given up for adoption. She was sexually abused, physically abused. And so she was super depressed for most of her life. And she wanted to choose death by suicide. And so, in having me, one of the messages was to help her to stay alive. That if she had a girl, and she prayed that I be a girl because she had been sexually abused. So she didn't want to raise boys, even though I have 2 brothers. I was first. And so she prayed for a girl because a girl was going to save her life. Well, I had that message to save lives. Who knew? Like, I didn't know when I was a little baby that I was going to grow up and
So do
work
you
with
just
people.
feel you were always somehow helping your mom, and then that led to one step, which led to another, which led to where you are? Or
No, that's kind of like we call it a date with destiny or an invisible loyalty, where you feel pushed or drawn or driven to do
friend?
certain things. And so I was driven to make my mom happy, to take care of, to do that, but it was not in my conscious awareness. So that's a really important thing because many of us come into our life with this message, with this program and we're not even aware of it. And so then we're living our life with that in the background without having a clue. And our parents are gone, and you're
So
still
part of
living that.
your work then is helping people uncover those pieces, right? And then in turn find out more about themselves. So then do you feel that feeding your mind and your body basically affects your attitude? And if you're feeding something weird in your mind or in your body, is that affecting the outcome?
It all works together. It's true because we're we're a series of different systems, but it all works together. So we had been led to believe that our mind is separate from our body, that
Mhm.
those emotions, that stress, that it doesn't really matter. Even in our medical system, when you go into the hospital and the food that you're given is absolute crap.
Right.
Unfortunately, it's like really like so terrible that the people that are making us sick from a food perspective are also feeding the people within the healthcare system. It's beyond me,
It's
honestly.
crazy, isn't
So
it?
I absolutely part of my PhD was food as medicine. And so I
That's
absolutely
our connection because,
yeah, like it
yeah,
totally. So good food, good things with love in it. We even realized like we were at a residential conference, my one of some of my colleagues, and we're at this conference and we're all excited because Hilton is really like they take pride in giving organic and but even our tummies were still like kind of funky over the and we realized it's still because it's institutional food.
food.
So if it's still institution and you're not putting the love into the food, you're still going to have you can still have kind of funkiness going on in your
I
body.
love that you pointed that out because people feel like they have to be this perfect chef in the kitchen. Oh no, I screwed up this spaghetti. I forgot this. But if you're doing it for your children and you really took the time to do it with love, that spaghetti's probably going to taste great, because maybe you went out and got the tomatoes at farmer's market or who knows what. But the point is, you added that component that a lot of people forget about. So, growing up, you mentioned this connection with your mom, which I think is crucial. Um, I would say from what you shared, you were like her little mini cheerleader, like cheering her on to live and to survive. But who has been your biggest cheerleader?
So it's kind of interesting because when you're put into that role to parent your mom or your dad or or your brothers and sisters,
Mhm.
it makes for very lonely. And and then not even having my natural father who was very unhealthy in the environment, it did create for many things. So being in three marriages is one thing. And I tell the story about that little message because my mom named me Michelle for the Beatles song.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
And she loved the Beatles. So I literally grew up loving the Beatles. But my first husband was George. My second husband was John. I live in Georgia. So we think that we choose, but we don't. And in that song, it says, I love you, I love you, I love you. These are the only words you'll understand. So it didn't matter when I was a kid, a teenager. My boyfriends could treat me really terrible. As
Terrible.
long as they came back and said they love me, oh, but they love me. So, but this is something that I carried that I had no idea. So when, I'm moving through my life and finally meeting Mark and getting married, and I was like, oh, finally, I'm done with the Beatles. And one of my students said, but Mark Chapman killed John Lennon. And I'm like, no. And I almost went to Chapman University and I went to this different things. And so it has made a difference. But, you know, I believe in the power of God and that there was many people that God divinely put into my
And
life.
so
And
you've had many
honestly,
cheerleaders.
you actually have been one of those people that
Oh,
really, like, in retrospect of all my teachers in high school, literally, and it had
she just gave it
drawn.
away, everybody. I was her teacher in high
She was,
school.
she was at 15, I was trying to think. I was 15 in
Yeah.
Spanish too. And I always look at these patterns and it's 2025. It's 40 years after 1985, which I had graduated. And so it's kind of that full circle, that way. And so there's been a few teachers in my life that have made a profound, difference, but also a couple of things like my parents were involved in they were third order Salesians, and so we did a lot of retreat work, and
Uh-huh.
that really, like, I was like, oh, I want to do retreat. So I grew up, I went back to Amma. I taught, religious studies. I got to do campus ministry and do the retreat work. So all these places God was leading me. And then I had really special people. So there was one priest who we've been friends, and he wasn't inappropriate. And, we used to joke about it, but he really never was. And interestingly, he was father, but he was born on the same day as my actual father. And he actually has been one of those people that, stood beside me, cheered me on. And so there's some people of the people that one woman who was like, an OA. She was in Overeaters Anonymous. I had a big eating problem. I went to literally one. I chose her as my sponsor because she reminded me of my cousin. I talked to her for 4 years, every day for 4 years, and I was a different person. And then Gilbert came into my life, and so it's been like just people like that have kind of taken me under their wing, taught me these tools, and really has changed my life,
I love
transformed my life.
that you're giving credit to everyone along the journey because you hear so many, famous people, celebrities, however you want to label people, and they always talk about, well, it was, this guy, this spiritual mentor, or it was this book. And a lot of times, yeah, that one was a key point. But when you really look at life, like you pointed out, if it wasn't for A and B and C and D, you wouldn't be where you are. And so to give every single person, however big or small, credit, I honor that you did that. Now you've written a book. Can you tell us about it and how you got there and what it is?
Together we rise. Like, it's so fun to have been a part of this project. And so again, it was that I have known for years, and the whole thing, publish or perish, it's been in the back of my mind. I finished my doctorate in 2015. I was like, oh my God, I got to write. And I have thousands of stories, but just not a lot of time. And we got myself and another friend, we were approached last year out of the blue, which for me is divine intervention. And would you like to be a part of this group? There's going to be several people that are contributing. So there's 19 of us that contributed a chapter, and my chapter is called My Five Last Names. So I've given a little hints out, and so that's my first book. But I'm also working to actually get a full book out, hopefully by the end of this year, early next year. And so like it's coming, the process, and even, some of the other ideas that I have that are coming also.
So do you consider yourself an entrepreneur, kind of like a pioneer in what you do?
I never had, but last year I got to be a part of like this beautiful woman's podcast also, and talks about women on being an entrepreneur. And I was like, well, I have had a business for 16 years. It's totally different than what other people do. I
Right.
get to teach people these. And so when people ask me, it's like I say, I'm doing God's work. And I've just been led into these roles, and every single thing that I have done has led me to where I am today. So, yes, to be an entrepreneur, yes, to be like that, I don't have to work for the man, because sometimes people get so scared to not follow their passion. And that's what I honor, because we have similar background in how we got started, like
Yeah.
teaching, and then that led to different things. But the bottom line is when you do what you're called to do with your passion and your purpose, like it all kind of unfolds.
And the right partner, male, female, whatever it is, for you, it just seems to arrive at the time you truly, truly knew what love was and you were capable of giving love, right? Because
Oh,
I saw that through yours and I just went, oh, she's truly happy. And I
mhm.
love seeing that because then it comes out in your work as well, right? Which
Mhm.
leads me to my next question. Do you feel like you are happier in the teaching moment, like when you're in a classroom type thing, teaching to a group? Or do you feel you are more in the one-on-one space, or do they both kind of intertwine for you?
Well, they do both intertwine, but I love teaching. Like, I never grew up thinking, oh, I'm going to be a teacher. But
Right.
I love teaching these tools. So when there's a group, I love it because there's always, we're all brought together because we have similar things going on. And so one thing can spark somebody else that sparks something else. So I love that. But I also love doing one-on-one work, and helping people to identify and look, and just like the amazing thing, I got to work with a new client last week, and it was so beautiful. We met because of this other certification that I've been doing with the Human Garage, which I also think is equally important to some of the other emotional things. But in any case, she's done a lot of work, and so we started putting it together, and we were doing her timeline, and all of these new things started coming out for her. And she was born after the death of an older brother who drowned at 16.
Ooh.
And then and so he wasn't even there, but her project purpose is to make mom feel better, to take care of mom, because there's this death. And then she reaches 16 years old. She wants to go off the cliff. she wants to dive off a cliff. She was like, I'm done with life. And then in 2016, she has something come up. And so our brain is very specific and it works like that. And so in the power of working one-on-one, those kinds of stories come out really well.
Hey,
And also in
you
the teaching.
pointed something out there. Sorry for interrupting, but
Oh
it
no.
caught me and I don't want it to leave. In her story and your relationship and relaying that, obviously it seems like a grief is prevalent or some sort of loss, or someone, what do you feel is the one trauma you see that kind of repeats itself with your clients? Because I hear loss, I hear sadness, I hear death. Is that the prevalent one that you see show up the most, or is it a variety?
Well, as human beings, we have we have all kinds of human experiences.
Right.
And so all of those bring different emotions. And so anything that's a pebble in your shoe
Mhm.
that's been hard to get over, that you can't get over. So grief and sadness for sure, feeling stuck, having
So it could
terrible
be anything, right? Just depending on how that person keeps the pebble.
exactly.
Yes.
Exactly. So whatever it is that you're losing sleep over, that you haven't been able to move beyond, that has been really challenging, that continues to show up in different ways, or that feeling, that's what you want to pay attention to because that those are the seeds of dis-ease.
And you know what? For some reason in the work I do, and I don't know if you see this too, it's like some people feel like, well, I shouldn't even talk about it because that's nothing compared to yours. Like we're doing this comparison thing. And I'm like, but pain is pain. If that's your pain, why should I judge you and say, bury that pebble, right? And so I love that you recognize it's not, it could be huge in someone's eyes or it could be just small. It doesn't matter. It's pain, right?
Right. And that is exactly true. And I tell people as soon as you compare, you invite depression.
I love that. It is,
Because
there's so
nobody
much truth in that.
and nobody is walking in your shoes. They don't, and all of us have different life plans and purposes. And so each of our stories is very different, and each of the things that we learn are very different. And
Uh,
so as soon as you compare, you're opening up a whole box of nothing that belongs to you.
oh gosh. Now you mentioned something professionally and personally they think you're getting into. You might want to share that with everyone about the human garage. You want to
Yes,
talk a little bit about that?
sure, sure. Because it's
That's your next little.
like my new favorite thing because oh my gosh, it's been profound for me. And I knew about it a couple years ago where they were doing some intro classes and so they encouraged you to take a before and after picture for
Mhm.
like a 1 hour class. And I was like, oh, okay, because I believe that. And I was a little sarcastic, but I did it. And there was a profound difference in 1 hour seeing that. And I was like, wow. So that was enough for me to be like, wow. And so I started to watch Gary Lineham, who is the founder of, and it's kind of interesting because I always look at these synchronicities, and Gilbert is a mentor for me for recall healing in Canada. And now Gary is a mentor who is originally from Canada. And so, and the G in Hebrew, because we learn these, that the G is like there's a trauma in utero. And I had trauma in utero. So it might be why I'm drawn to people that have had traumas in utero. I know Gilbert had trauma in utero. I had trauma in utero. And I imagine Gary did too. And especially because they're the things that he has lived in his life. And I'm like, oh, one day we'll have when it's time, God will make it so that we have a connection that we get to actually talk about this because it's profound. So, with recall healing, we help people to really understand the why, the patterns. We're like Sherlock Holmes. We're looking for all those puzzle pieces. We look at timeline. We look at before a person's born, 18 months before they're born, and the whole first year of life. And then we look at our family tree, who we line up with, who we're named for, because we think that we choose. But a lot of the unfinished business, the things we don't talk about, the things that were super painful, they return in the next generation or the next generations. And we have no idea that that's what's going on, but we're just reliving those things. So in recall healing, we help put it all together and I teach different tools. And then what I thought what that we didn't do so great is actually getting into the actual body. And the human garage is a body movement practice. It's similar to yoga, but yoga works on the linear, and we're made to be rotational beings.
Hmm.
And so we're also pressurized. So when you move and like something simple like the totally twisted, I have my right foot over my left, have my right foot
Right.
under, left hand on top, turning and twisting. You're locking in and then you breathe and you're expanding all of that because our fascia really is our structure. It's really our communication, the way
And
that we
body movement is so crucial to getting rid of that crazy,
Or you hear shake it out,
right?
shake it
Yes,
off.
yes,
Well, there's
so
a reason for
true.
that. Exactly.
Exactly. I mean, even if you take a few minutes to breathe in between making a decision and shake it out, you probably are going to make a better decision.
For sure.
And people just like, what? And I go, no, seriously, try it out. So I love that because I do a lot of that myself. I go, okay, you just ate a great meal. How did you feel before? How do you feel now? Let's breathe, let's shake it out, let's dance. And it's amazing, just all those put together, how people's whole being can just be changed in a few minutes.
It's amazing, right? Just
Yeah.
from and the more because we sit too much in our world. And so, like, literally doing little techniques to move and breathe and open up is
Yeah.
going to allow. And they even started doing some research with the Human Garage classes, and they found that when people take
Uh-huh.
one class,
Okay.
are taller after
Oh, I heard about that. I don't know where I saw that study, but they were literally
with
taller.
human garage. Yep. And
Yeah.
so I'm teaching these tools too
Oh,
because
great.
as you're turning and twisting, I have a waistline that I never had. I'm 58 years old and I never had a waistline. I was like kind of this, even when I was
Yeah, you
thin.
did in high school. You
Very,
had a cute
no,
one.
no, it was still straight up and down. I was thin, but it was still straight
No,
up and
I get
down.
what you're saying.
Now it's like, I'm like, what the heck? And some definition and different parts. And I was
Oh, I
like,
love
well,
this.
all
And it's
right.
simple. So we've got a few more minutes, and I've got a couple great questions
Okay,
I want to
perfect.
ask you. So,
Okay.
okay, so we both realize that internally doing something like eating well is crucial. So if you had to tell me that you're going to describe yourself in the most amazing dish. And you were going to serve that. You go, this is me, Maria. What would that dish be? And what would it look like?
Hmm. So there's all these things that come to mind because food, like first, food is medicine. And then, I just recently had a birthday. And so, I really, really, creme brulee comes to mind.
Oh
Now,
my gosh, you're not the first one that has said that. There must be something about creme brulee.
creme brulee, well, the creaminess and maybe like some milk that's connection with mama. And so, my mom was given up for adoption. So it could be another reason, like where I'm drawn to cheese and milk. I love it.
I
But I know
love that.
but that creaminess, and it's not too sweet, but it has a hint of sweetness because to experience the joy of life, you have to like really
And it
embrace that.
always looks so inviting, no
And
matter
it does. And then like the crispy candy on top. And you can
Yes.
even add some salt, which would be
So,
bad. And then raspberries and blueberries.
oh wow.
Oh, they're my favorite. So I
Oh,
think like, creme brulee it is.
oh, God, thank you so much for sharing that one. So, how do you want to be remembered? Obviously, you have a book. Obviously, you have a business. Obviously, you have children and extended family that will probably talk about you long after you've left the planet. But how would you, if you could, say, this is how I want to be remembered?
I want to be remembered as really like being the hands and feet of Jesus. That when I meet people, that they feel welcomed and loved, that I can speak truth, and even if they don't agree with me, they it's open for talking about it and discussion, and I want people, when my greatest thing is that when they think about me, that they did feel hope, and that through great pain comes great transformation.
Oh, that's beautiful. And I feel you're doing that. I feel you will be remembered that way. I mean, after all, look at us.
Yeah.
Full circle, right?
Right.
So, what is the one thing that you feel humans as a race, us here as a race, have truly lost and we're starting to recall?
I think that they have lost their sense of self, and that many of us who recognize that, that's really what we're doing, is bringing the person back to their self, to their core, to who they were created to be. And that's far beyond money and all of that. It's,
Exactly.
and one of the books that had a profound impact on my life was Viktor Frankl's Man's Search for Meaning, like, in my 20s. And it has always stayed with me, because I think that when people have purpose and meaning, it doesn't matter what that is.
Right.
So,
Yeah. Oh. So, do you think you've had your aha moment in life, or do you think it's coming, or do you think you're living it?
oh, I think that there's many aha moments in life. And I think that throughout life, that there's been so many amazing, beautiful things, and there's been so many very, very challenging things. But in all of that, it brings me to a new layer of understanding, a depth, an awareness, experience to walk with others. And so I think life is about a lot of aha moments.
Oh, Michelle, it's been such a pleasure talking to you.
Oh, it's been an
And
honor.
I'm sorry I didn't refer to you as doctor, because to me you're always been a doctor. You've been like a teacher to me, even though I was a teacher to you, because I've
Hey,
learned so much just from seeing your growth and your willingness to. I remember how you reached out to me and then we met and had, I mean, it's just like you said, that's what life is about, these connections and these serendipity moments. So, why don't you tell everyone where they can find you? All this will be in the notes, but I want to hear it.
for sure. So, soultreetransformations.com is my website. Recall Healing USA is another website. I'm on Facebook, Michelle Masa-Dawson, Soul Tree Transformations, on Instagram, Soul Tree. So I'll give you all of that. But it's probably the fastest way is just to go to my website, and there's a place where you can put an inquiry in and we can send information. I do have a workshop coming up in person in Georgia. So, Maria, maybe you should come to my workshop.
Yeah. Oh my
It's
gosh, that'd be
October
so
2nd through the 4th. It's in Woodstock, and it's all on mind body skills. And we talk about a little bit of different avenues of all of those places that we can incorporate healing. So
Oh
I
my
love to have you.
gosh. Yeah, that's so cool. I'm definitely going to look into that because
Okay,
it's right
awesome.
around the corner.
It is. It's right around the corner, and I'd be happy to give an extra discount for
Oh,
people for your show, and it just call our office, and our early bird ended, but we'll give that plus an extra
oh,
25, and so
fantastic. Do you hear
so
that, everyone? So you
so
might see both of
that
us there.
that
For
would be
sure,
so.
Michelle.
I would love that. I would love that so much.
Well, God bless you for the work that you're doing. I feel it's so needed in the world. And the main thing that I feel you're doing, despite all the research and all the techniques you have, is that you are showing up authentically. Because if you don't do that, people pick up on it. Oh, that's just going like this. But I know everyone that listened today can see that you truly love what you're doing, you're living it, you're being it. And so I thank you for that.
Thank you, Maria. And it's so, so cool. This has been an honor. I appreciate being
Well,
here.
thank you for taking the time. And we'll see you all next month on Ladies of the Kitchen 30-minute chat. Bye.